ask you to welcome, please, our first guest, Judith Vanistendael from Belgium. Have a seat. Actually, you're going to sit... No, you sit there, you sit there. That's right. Right, we have to figure out this is the first time we've done this. You realise this is a bit of an experiment because we haven't really done graphic novel readings before. I've done them before. I've done them with people like Lorenzo Mattotti and Chris Reynolds. We did them at Foyles, and it worked extremely well. And it is actually a very nice way to experience comics read by their author. You can look at the visuals, also hear their presentation. But just before we get on to that, just to set the scene a little bit with you, Judith, we need to explain a little bit about that particular book we're going to be seeing an extract from. It would be a good place to start, I think. When David Lost His Voice is your second sort of major graphic novel after Dance by the Light of the Moon. Yes. And it marked also, I believe, the first time you'd really worked at length with full colour, with watercolour, yes. I believe, yeah. But it's a story also based, like your first one, on at least partly on autobiographical or family events.
It's completely fiction.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. It reads very, very convincingly, and I'm sure a lot of people have assumed that it's autobiographical.
It's not at all.
Is it not?
It's deliberately not autobiographical.
Okay, yeah, but it reads very, very powerfully as if it's something that you've experienced.
Yeah.
So how did you arrive at this because we should explain that it's called When David Lost His Voice. It's to do with a man losing through throat cancer.
I lost my stepfather to cancer. So that was the reason why I decided to make a book about cancer and about how people react to it. Mm. But from there on, it was completely fiction.
Right.
So what I made.
So it had
and it was really deliberately because I was confronted with a lot of private questions about. And my first book was based on a.
Was very autobiographical.
Very autobiographical.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I didn't want to do that again because it was problematic for me. My relationship with the press, with the public, they got too close to who I am. Yeah. And I wanted to build a kind of wall.
Mm. And it also, was it a way for you to deal with your stepfathers? No, nothing to do with that? No. That was the springboard, though, for it.
It was the only subject I could talk about at that moment, because it was so present, because there were, he was not the only one I lost to cancer. I lost quite a few persons, and then, someone very close to me got cancer while I was making the book, so it was really the story that was present.
Yes.
The subject.
Yeah, and the feelings associated with that.
Yeah.
And what's very powerful about the book is the way you convey lots of different people's reactions within the family, I mean, including the children and how they cope with it. And it's quite surprising how children deal with dark, difficult stuff, which they're not really meant to know or whatever. And you portray that particularly well, I think.
Yeah, that's based on real observations about what I saw when children hear this kind of really terrifying news that someone very close to them is going to die. They just treat it like, I don't know, like they treat going to school or having a conflict with a friend or having a birthday party. Just completely the same level of treating the thing. I thought it was very, there was a freedom in it, like in their approach to life.
Yes.
Like that is part of life, and that's about it.
And in a way, it almost becomes like, well, maybe that's a better way of dealing with it than the angst and anxiety. They can do that.
They can do that because they're not dying. I mean,
no,
they're very
it's more
far
remote.
Away from that. It's very remote for them.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a better way, but I think as an adult, you're not capable of it anymore.
No.
Or some people maybe are capable.
Right. So we're giving people a flavour of the book, and I should say it sounds quite grim, but it actually has got quite a. It isn't actually grim.
He dies.
He does. There's no great surprise in that sense. Well, that's a spoiler alert there for you. But we kind of know that. Doesn't just lose his voice, he loses his life in that sense. Yes, but towards.
Yes, but losing his life, he finds his voice in the end.
Yes.
He discovers his voice because he has a throat cancer. Well, not throat, but larynx, thing you talk with. So they have to cut it out. And he's not a talkative person, but by cutting out his voice, what they literally do when they cut out your larynx, he discovers that communicating is not only using your voice, but you can write or you can draw, whatever you can do, and that communicating is actually very important. And so he starts to write. So he finds his voice, he loses it, and that's the way he rediscovers it.
Through writing, yeah.
So it's not too grim.
No. And I think you do some beautiful, beautiful imaginative things. Even, I mean, the cover represents that too, the way that you can represent the fear of death. Which is like it's almost like a knitting pattern or something, isn't it? Almost the way you've pinned together the skeleton.
Yeah, it's his wife, and his wife is textile designer.
Yeah.
And she goes completely nuts on the idea of losing him. That's the part I'm going to read also, because I had to really find the part where there is a lot of text, because this is about losing your voice, so there is not a lot of talking in the book, actually. Very little text. And she tries to cope with this drama by cutting out the scans of his metastasis and making his body again, his skeleton again, out of the images of his illness. So that's what she's really, she has real big problems with illness, yes. So that's the cover. It's the cover in England, but in Belgium the cover was another thing. It was David, the main character, who is nearly dying with his newborn grandchild.
Right.
But the French people thought it too tough. So, and I guess Self-Made Hero took the French version, so it was this cover. But the original cover, because it's originally published in Dutch, was different.
Ah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Shall we have a go with this magic remote? Do you want to use that as we put the images up?
We
have the first image up already. And you've got the page in here, and you can set the scene, and then we can...
Yeah, I have to set the scene, otherwise nobody will understand what I'm reading.
And when you want to change, you just have to point to
I have to do like this, yeah.
Yes, and they'll change it for you.
Okay, so this is Paula. It's the wife of David, who is dying. And she's 20 years younger. So she's not ready for this kind of story in her life, and she's a very pointed character. She's not the really kind, nice person, like the warm mother or the warm wife. She's very edgy.
Spiky.
I like her a lot because she's really a true character, but and she's very human. You say that human?
Yeah.
And she's very scared and angry. She's a lot of anger in her, and because she will be alone. They have a child together, and she will have to take care of this child alone, and she's very scared of this because she doesn't feel up to this task. And she's also angry with David because he doesn't talk about his illness, and he keeps her out of his problems, so she cannot help him. She cannot, and by not being able to help him, she cannot help herself. So, and she gets an invitation to Finland. That's why it's frozen. She's in Helsinki. She's invited, when he is very ill, she's invited to do something very important in a design school in Finland. And she goes, and they get a conflict about it because he doesn't want her to go because he needs her, and she wants to go because she knows that life has to go on after he died. So she takes a very tough, but I think a very clever and very precise decision to go to this professional travel and to do it because she has to live on. So she chooses life, in my opinion. I had a lot of criticism on this. The people think she's very unkind to him and very hard, but I think she's very realistic, actually. And so she finds a boat. David has a boat in Berlin, and he sails, but he always sails in circles. In Berlin, you have lakes that are connected, interconnected, and he always dreams of sailing away, but he always keeps on sailing in circles. He also has a shop with travel books, so the whole book is about traveling, also different kind of travels you can make as a person, like inner travels, faraway traveling, professional traveling, pilgrimages, and stuff like that. So she is in Helsinki, and she feels very lonely, and she goes out, and she goes onto the frozen sea in Helsinki, because that's what they told me. I've never been there. The sea freezes in winter. And she finds this boat that is stuck into the ice.
Frozen into it.
Frozen into the ice. It cannot move anymore. And then she starts talking to herself. And she says, I should bring back this boat as a souvenir for David. A boat stuck in the ice. A boat that will never go forward or back. You hear me, David? I'm giving you a boat that stops time. Meanwhile, I am turning in circles. Do you hear me, David? I am spinning around. Spinning in a fucking circle. And then somebody says, are you okay? You shouldn't stay out there. It's extremely cold. You'll freeze to death. You'd go numb first, though. They say that dying of cold isn't too painful. You look so sad. Oh, no, I'm not. Well, I'll let you get back to your hotel quietly then, but take a hot bath. A bath won't warm me up. It is -8 in my head. Don't leave me, please. My wife is in bed with flu. I really should get back. But we can walk together part of the way, if you like. Come closer. Close your eyes. My husband is dying. He has cancer. And when we first met, we would dance with no music playing. A waltz, a polka. And the chemo? Chemo changed the way he smells. And you smell like David before he was sick. And when we were dancing just then, I smelled his smell. And I know it must sound crazy, but I'd like to thank you for your smell. Oh,
lovely. Thank you very much for that. That was magical, I think, to hear an author read and to see a graphic novel animated like that. I think it's worked really well. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for trying it out for us. I think we might try and do that again. So we should talk about the image on the screen, which is the book that really put you on the international map with your comics.
Yeah.
This story, as you said, was very, very real and very close to reality.
Yes, very close.
Tell us more about that. I know we have some images from it too, I think. It's you with...
in the book he's called Abu. That's my first boyfriend, and he became my husband. And but I was very young. I was 19 years old when I met him, and we married when I was 22 or something. And yeah, we separated afterwards because it was too complex. Not because there was no love, but because the situation was so complex, because he was a Togolese refugee, a political refugee. And I met him in the, how do you say that, in the Klein Kasteeltje, in the refugee center, where they stayed before they were entering the country. And yeah, my father always says that the state gave my daughter away to an African refugee. Like, you give your daughter away, you wed your daughter to...
So the state did it rather than him.
Yeah, we had to marry because of the paperwork.
Yeah.
Because the whole procedure was exhausting.
To keep him in the country.
To be able to keep him in the country and to keep him safe.
So we call that kind of like a sort of a marriage of convenience or a marriage...
Yeah, there was a lot of love. We loved each other, but I would never have married at the age of 22 if I wouldn't have needed to do that.
And reflecting this in a graphic novel, we're seeing some images from it here. You're very honest about what happened and the good and the bad in the relationship.
Yeah.
when you were involved with this was still with some removed, presumably when you came to do this story, the relationship had ended, the marriage had ended, or what stage
long
were you
time.
at?
I
so
only started doing comics when I was 28 or something. So this book came out when I was 30 something. So it was 10 years ago.
There was hindsight. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really and it was better that there was like 10 years between what happened and the making of, because it was very tough what happened. It was very stressful.
And what made you particularly keen to communicate this?
That's another question, because I first made it.
I guess.
Not at all. No? It was out of anger with my father.
Ah, yes.
Because my father is a writer.
Quite a well-known writer.
Yes, he's quite well known. And he wrote a short story about me and this guy. And he said it was fiction.
Okay.
And then people started calling me, your father wrote a book about you. And I was so angry with him. And we had huge theoretical discussions about what is fiction, what is non-fiction. And at
what's
that,
autobiographical?
Yeah. And I was really angry that he threw my life to the public. That's what he did.
He just did it without asking you at all?
No, he never asked. No. He just did it. Not because he's a bad person, because just he didn't think about it. What could be the effects of this kind of thing?
What were the effects? I mean, did it come back to you?
I felt naked. And it was something I had left behind. I stopped the relationship and I went to go and live in Spain to be far away from it. It was a very tough period, and I was very young, and it was too heavy to carry, and I wanted to have fun. So I went to the south of Spain and I drank a lot of beer, and had a lot of parties, and had a nice Spanish boyfriend. And and
then suddenly it all comes back up again.
And then my father starts writing the thing, and I was like, why do you unearth this, what I didn't want? I didn't want to talk about it anymore.
You read the story. You read the story.
Of course I read it, yeah.
It was obviously his take.
And so then I decided to reappropriate it.
Make it yours again.
Yeah. I wanted to claim it. It's my story. It's not you didn't live this shit. I lived it. So although he wrote it from the perspective of the fathers, so I decided to make 2 books. I decided to make a comic of his story and to add my part to it. That's the second part. Because in Belgium it's published, this is from the second part, in Belgium it's published in 2 books, in France too.
It really belongs together though, doesn't it?
Properly? Yeah, they belong together,
yes.
But they're two perspectives.
And when you came to doing that, how you informed? Was your father, did he know he was going to have his version?
Yeah, he knew it.
Was it his version or your version of his version, or,
he was just very proud.
Yeah. Oh, in a good way.
Yeah, he was very proud. He was really like, good.
And how did you feel you presented your father then in his perspective on it? Were you?
The way he really is, actually, I think. I think he's a bit like this intellectual with a blah 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 big voice. But at home, he's the one who is. His wife is doing everything and deciding everything, and he's like, oh.
And what about confronting the racism in the book, and is that something that you wanted to deal with, or that comes through from your father's attitude to your relationship?
Yes, because he changed. He was this really left, well-thinking, never racist guy, and all of a sudden there is this beautiful black boy standing in his doorway, and he says like, ooh, and he's Muslim. Oof. Ah. But then he gradually changed, and he really started to like Abu.
Yeah.
And he started to defend and to understand the political refugee problem.
Right.
That it's not. He started to understand the human story behind it, the human feelings, and.
Right. It's vital to have that.
That they have feelings just like you and me, which of course is obvious, but.
So it wasn't revenge on your father.
No.
And your father
was just I needed to make it my own again.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure we all want to know what happened to Abu. Did he have to go back to Togo, or? He
couldn't.
No. Was he able to stay in Belgium?
Yes, he was able to stay, but he has never been very happy afterwards, because he got a really very big depression fleeing from. He was tortured. He was mistreated in Togo. So he arrived here and he didn't really integrate easily because he had a huge depression. He missed his country, and I think after, and in the end he was between two countries. He was not really.
So where does he belong? Togo, where does he fit?
And he really is a bit this kind of typical lost case. Never really feeling at home, neither here nor there. No. So it's not a very beautiful ending.
And have you kept in contact?
Not anymore.
That's too difficult?
No, it's just because, I mean, do you keep contact with your first love?
No.
After 20 years? It's 20 years ago, you know.
But you parted as friends, didn't you?
Yes.
Of course.
And he read the books. Then we had contact while I was making the books, and he read the books and he thought it was extremely funny and...
Great.
So, but then afterwards, I mean, I had other boyfriends.
Yeah. But it's great you got that story out there, because I think it's, for many people, it's not something we understand. And but you just described the refugee experience, and that being neither one country nor the other, and it's a huge turmoil for people to make that adjustment. Yeah. It's going on all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's a lot of refugees.
A lot of people are moving from country to country, not always by choice, of course.
Most of the time, not by choice, no. And it's very difficult, I think, to understand for a person who is not in this situation.
Exactly.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's a very, very powerful portrayal of that. I'm aware we aren't going to ask you to draw, but that Judith does draw, and she'll be very happy to do some lovely dedicasts and little signings and drawings for you in her book. But shall we thank Judith and bring our next guest up? Thank you so much, Judith.
Thank you.
Sit down, yeah.